This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Sec Units? This is Steven, your host with Ontology Podcast. I have my lifelong friend Jake on, and we're talking about Murderbot, episodes 1 through 5 of the first season of what seems like it'll be multiple seasons of the Apple Plus show.
Yeah. Um, Definitely enjoying it so far. I hope they do renew new seasons. But I think my biggest confusion, I don't know if it's necessarily a complaint, but it's just what are they like, what's the type of timeline they're trying to go with? You know, I feel like the first story could have been done in 5 episodes, but we're halfway through it,
Hmm.
you know? Um,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I have some thoughts on that as well.
yeah.
I mean, they're taking the first book or novella, really,
Yeah.
all systems read, which is. I mean, we read it some time ago. I want to say like 150 pages, somewhere around there. Not
Yeah, it
long.
was like 3 or 4 hours of audiobook.
Oh, so maybe
So,
not even. Maybe I'm even overstating. Like 100 pages then. I mean, I know pages are
um,
kind of relative nowadays that we're in the
160
audio
pages.
slash. Oh, okay, 160.
You
Sure.
nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're focusing on this story. There are what, seven
Six,
different
seven.
stories? And
Yeah.
one of them is like a long full length book, and another one is kind of like a shorter book, and then the rest are just novellas. And yeah, it is kind of a an open question for me too, as to like what is the long-term plan on this? Seems like they just kind of like, do they have a long-term plan? They kind of just launched with this one. They're like, we could tell a good story of season of TV, and we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like to me that there must be some sort of long-term plan because they are part of what seems to be padding the runtime, and not necessarily in a bad way, is it seems like they're establishing the foundation of these characters to go forward longer and like the preservation system culture versus the rim culture. Like it seemed like they were leaning more into that. Maybe it is just for the comedy. I assumed it was also because they want to use that foundation for later stories. Um, but yeah, I don't know. So I just assumed they're going to go more, but this also could be maybe a self-contained. Sorry, it depends on I think how they end season one is really going to be indicative of what their plans are in the future. But
Mm. I mean, at this point, we're halfway through, and we're gonna do spoilers here for not for the book, but for the first 5 episodes. We'll talk about what
yeah,
they've shown so far. I mean, I'm guessing that they will end it at the end of the events of the book, All Systems Red. I don't think there's any reason like not to believe, because each of the books kind of takes place in a different setting, and I mean there's some kind of repeated tissue between it all, but or
they
connective
feel
tissue
like
between it all. But
yeah,
it seems like they're committed to like the sets that they have here on whatever the name of this planet is that they're on. And like I'm guessing like this is what they're doing for this season.
yeah. I don't expect them to go past book one in this season at all. Like you said, they each one, since they are like these novellas, they feel very episodic in the sense that it's like new location, some new characters in each one. But yeah.
Yeah.
I will
And our
say though, I am
reviews. Oh yeah, go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna say I will say I am enjoying it. I'm just kind of thrown off by the pacing, especially in light of like shows like House of the Dragon losing an episode for season two in terms of count. I feel like this is one where Apple could have definitely been like, let's do 5 or 6 episodes for book one. But maybe I don't know. Yeah. No, but I think it's a funny show. The action isn't like amazing. It's all right for what it is, but I think it's mostly finding its place in like the just kind of comedic sci-fis with
Hmm.
a unique edge to it. Yeah.
It seems like we had this conversation a lot around the Wheel of Time cancellation. And for what I mean, take it for what it is, because neither one of us are TV experts by any means. But it seems like they are doing this in order to, make a more affordable show. They have like, mostly one
Yeah.
set here in the habitat. They do a few action things, some CGI things, but it's mostly just kind of like people standing around and talking and setting up funny things and creating this like, dramedy type of show. And if you only do 20 to 30-minute episodes, then it's easy to make that into 10 episodes and you don't have to cut very much. And then you just, have people talking and saying lines and you can easily create a show that way. I mean, compare like the number of events that have actually happened in these 5 episodes to the number of events that happened in 5 episodes of the most recent Wheel of Time season. Like so many more. But
I mean, it is
I
twice
assume
the
it's just so
con.
much cheaper to film the 5 episodes of Murderbot than the 5 episodes of Wheel of Time.
That is something. I mean, the Wheel of Time, they're like hour-long episodes, so 5 episodes there is almost twice
Yeah,
the.
yeah, that's fair.
But at the same time, I think you're right that I think the shorter runtime is probably more affordable and like it's a better business model. It is interesting that it almost feels like uh the story like I feel like the story would feel better paced if they were 2 or 3 full hour episodes at this point than the 5 half-hour ones, for my
Hmm.
taste at least. I think like the start having like a start, middle, end 5 different times, but with not, like you said, not as much happening in between is maybe that's just my preference, but I feel like the first book, it being a novella, it feels pretty like a lot more fast paced. Like obviously there's some groundwork it does to like introduce you to the world and character, but then after that it feels like it's kind of just like bam 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 and then it's done and then there's like a little resolution at the end. And the pacing does not feel the same for me in this one. This one feels much more, maybe it's because they're going for more of that comedic route. But
Yeah.
even though like these are shorter episodes, it feels like it's longer, I think because of that.
It feels, I mean, I think the reason for this is you're waiting a week and
Yeah.
sometimes it's a 20-minute episode where all they're really doing is like taking one trip from point A to point B and there's a bunch of, comedic stuff in between. But you're like, what actually happened in this episode? Well, 2 notable events is all.
Yeah.
But I've waited a week for this, and I've watched it, and then now I've got to wait another week for the next. Like, yeah, the pacing is completely different. Even, I mean, I guess if it was, maybe we could have a different conversation if this was Netflix model, and you could just binge through and just, what
Yeah.
I feel like you would probably have a slightly different take on it, but it still is being much more deliberate in the way that it's telling the story. It's I mean, one of my criticisms of the books, I had two main criticisms. One was the characters were not fleshed out very much, other than like Mensa and Murderbot itself. And the other
Yeah.
was they just felt like so episodic to the point where kind of made me wonder by the end, like, where are we going with the story?
Yeah.
And that wasn't really like a big criticism until later on in the series, where now after reading like 7 of these, I'm like, where's it going? Because like I enjoy them, but I don't really know like what's coming next. I don't think that's a criticism at all through the first novella, but I think that this is a long way of saying a good thing that's come of this in adding more time is we have more time with the characters. We get to learn about them more. They feel like distinct people rather than kind of just the interchangeable names of all the different preservation scientists.
Yeah, to that point, other than Mensa and Garathan, and even Garathan to an extent, like other than Mensa, there were a lot of like, wait, I don't know if these are characters made up for the show or they're characters from the book because the book characters aren't super, they don't feel very standout-ish for the most
Hmm.
part. Um,
Yeah.
so so honestly, like I know Garathan is from the book as well, but the rest of them I have like I think I read the first one like a year and a half ago. Um, and I could not tell you if these are actual characters from the books or not,
They're
besides those
characters.
three.
They are.
They are. It's
So
all the same
yeah.
names.
Yeah. Rati, Arata,
Oh, Rati,
Pinley,
yeah. Rati for
and
sure. Yeah.
Barawaj, I think. Those are the
Yeah.
four other. I think that's all. Maybe there's more of a cast in the book. I don't remember. Those four for sure. But then they added a new one. The
Yeah.
blonde lady that's a survivor, Labibi.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's new.
Yeah. That the humor with can we dive into spoilers then, I guess?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um her like I kind of get what she was going, what they're trying to do, and it is kind of it is the same vibe. I wasn't really here for it though. I was like, this is just kind of weird. Her
Just the
character.
just her humor, her
Yeah. Like her,
anatomical
yeah.
humor right off the bat.
I mean, not just that. Although I did think like that they missed an opportunity to talk about comfort bots or whatever. I can't remember if they talked about him in the show at all yet, but
They did
like they did. I feel
in
like
the
that would have
very
been the
early
time
episodes.
to like hit on that again. Like, no, like it's a sec unit, not a comfort unit, you know.
Yeah,
But
they probably could have reiterated that. I mean, it did
um,
show a shot of Murderbot not having genitals, so
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Like yeah, it's that's established. But yeah, I don't know. I think the humor is mostly hit for me. It's a little miss, but it's also very like um it's like kind of low key in that it's just like they're not like setting up
mm,
punchlines and like leaving space in the writing for you to like laugh at it. It's just like throwing them out every once in a while and it's just like this weird and quirky, which I like for the most part. I really like is is Rati the guy who is in the
I'm
triad
pretty
right
sure.
now?
Pretty sure Rati
Um
is the guy. Pin Lee, I think, was gender swapped as well for the show.
okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm pretty sure about that. Yeah,
the guy who's in the triad who like didn't do the combat training, I think he's funny. I
yeah,
like the conversation in episode 5 when he's like, I think we should have a child and name it Secunit. I thought that was like the perfect mix of just dumb and funny. But
yeah. It's a lot of humor that I'm not laughing out loud, but I'm
yeah,
kind of like chuckling to
yeah,
myself at least throughout.
yeah. It's not the
Yeah.
funniest thing ever, but it's fun, I think. Um, yeah,
I
yeah.
guess
And
to
again,
just kind
that
of get at that, like, do you think that is the right vibe for this show? That can be a bigger conversation, but I think
yeah.
going into
No,
the
yeah.
show,
Let's talk
like
about it. Yeah.
that's what I was looking for the most. Like, what is the vibe? I didn't really care if they uh, since I wasn't really too attached to any of the characters other than Murderbot and
Mhm.
Mensa, I wouldn't have cared if they swapped out characters wholesale or whatever, or even if they changed some plot events. But I was just looking for the vibe to be the same because that was the big attraction to me for the story.
Mhm.
Kind of this quirky offbeat thing with the, Murderbot narrator and a lot of these like discussions on, Murderbot human or not, or like, this whole like sci-fi-ish idea. And I think all of those things have been achieved. So like I'm pretty happy with the show from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I don't think it nails the exact vibe as the book, or the books, but I think it's within like the same ballpark. Like, it's definitely true to it in that sense. It's not like it doesn't feel like unfaithful, even though it is like slightly different from my perspective.
Do
I
you feel
do
like it's
wish
mostly just goofier with the
it's
preservation folks?
Sorry, my thumb. Yeah, I do think I think it's goofier, but I don't think that's a bad thing. The only thing I wish it had more that the books had is as like offbeat and quirky as the books are, it did feel a little more serious in terms of like it wanted you to seriously consider Murderbot as a person or not. Um, and I feel like the show it's more every things are more just
Mm.
lighthearted in general. Um, so I would like
We'll
to
see
see
if we
them.
get there.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
like to see that hone in a little more as the show progresses. But again, I think it's still within like um, a confidence interval, a margin of error, standard deviation, if you will. Just throw out some more
Okay.
terms.
Jake's
I think
smart. Jake's establishing his credentials here.
no. But well, I guess like I for whatever reason I'm thinking of like a box and whisker plot, and the boxes are overlapping for the majority of it, so it's good enough for to hit similar vibes in my opinion.
Between show and book.
Between show and book, whereas
Mm.
something like um I don't I'm not trying to bag on the Wheel of Time, but I don't think the Wheel of Time show for the most part hit the same vibe as the books. And I think
Mm.
intentionally they went for something else there
I feel
in
like
a lot
it's
of ways.
okay that we haven't established the whole humanity, esque part of
Mm,
the sci-fi narrative yet, because the Murderbot character is not really like ready for that yet. Like Murderbot itself has not got
yeah.
to that point. Like it is very much still like it recently hacked its governor module and it's trying to fill out how it feels in this like weird society of humans. And it's almost like a newborn intelligence of its own
Yeah.
that like now
Yeah.
just recently has this free will. And so I feel like they can build on that and they can like get to a lot of these interesting ideas. I hope that they at least establish by the end of the season that, Murderbot is starting to like think in this direction. But I think it's fine if we don't get any like hard-hitting, thought-provoking stuff in this season.
I would want it to end with a hard-hitting, thought-provoking
Mm.
thing, like a sing at least a singular one,
A
and I
single
would be
thing that you could
satisfied.
point to that's okay.
Yeah, which I
Yeah,
think the way
yeah.
the first book ends, it like is suited to that.
Yeah, yeah, I can
So
see that. Hmm.
um, I'd be disappointed if they didn't
Which
do
was
something
hinted
like that.
at when, Mensa
Yeah, yeah,
kind of talks about, what's going to happen next type of
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Um, I think the so yeah, I'd say for the vibe, I think it does uh do the book's service there. I don't know how involved Martha Wells is on this. Um, but I feel like if I had written a book and this is the adaptation so far, I'd be pretty satisfied with it.
Mm.
Some creative licenses for sure to change some stuff. Some for the better in terms of like doing longer form story. And some just different and maybe a little worse, but I think overall like this is a solid adaptation in almost every aspect. So,
What do you think of the Skarsgård Murderbot
oh
performance,
yeah.
characterization,
I think
Murderbot itself compared to what
yeah.
we've seen from the books or just in general?
Yeah, did you listen to the books?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
I read some. Back
I,
and forth.
I listen, I think exclusively listen to them, and um I feel like the voices kind of sound similar. Like the tone sounds similar between the two. I don't know if that was intentional or maybe my brain is retroactively overwriting the narrator with
Yeah.
Skarsgård's voice now. But yeah, I think he does a really good job of it. It is hard. You're just so in Murderbot's head in the book. And so they do there are ways that the show goes about it, sometimes visually, sometimes with the overdubbed narration. Um, but I think that is just a limitation to the TV format where like I feel like you get to know Murderbot much better, much faster in the book than I think
Mm.
Skarsgård's able to do, and not. I don't think that's an acting issue or a actor issue. I think it's just the medium. But I think he's done it really well. He is kind of like a good looking guy though, and that's
Yeah.
kind of my only gripe. Like
Kind of
I
throws you off a
envisioned
little bit.
Yeah, I envision Murderbot being very just nondescript, like very plain face. I also wish he
More
had his helmet on
androgynous.
more. Yeah, more androgynous. And I wish the Murderbot had their helmet up more in the show. Um, especially in book five, in episode five when they find out about the governor module and that he doesn't have to take orders. Like the first thing he should have done, like, okay, sweet, I don't have to pretend to accept this order to not wear my helmet right now and just go straight back to, you
Yeah.
know, wearing it. But
But I mean, the his face is a moneymaker
I know,
for Apple Plus. So
I
yeah,
always think about
there's
that with
that.
like
Tom
superhero
Hardy and
stuff and Pedro Pascal. Actually, was he in the
oh,
suit though? I don't know if he just voiced
for Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. Yeah.
Weren't there like three movies in a row where Tom Hardy was wearing a mask? It's like the Batman 3 and what was that one called? The Dark Knight
The Dark
Rises
Knight Rises. Yeah.
and the Dunkirk where he was the pilot. And
Dunkirk.
there was something else where like the joke was that he just always
He
wore a
just
mask. But yeah,
yeah.
Pedro Pascal is another good one.
But like you see in like all superhero movies nowadays, like they wear the mask for like the first 20% of the movie and then after that they always have the mask off. Like
Yeah.
it's like they'll meet up with someone and they immediately take the mask off and I think you're right. Like it's part of that. I don't know if it's an actor driven thing or production driven thing of like we got to get their face out there for yeah, for whether the actor's like, I need my face out there so people know it's me, or we need their faces out there for advertising, you know.
I feel like it's a win for everyone involved. I mean, people want to see the face. They
I don't
want to
know.
they want to film the face.
Uh,
It's
I'm over the face.
oh, you don't care about the face.
I see a lot of faces.
Okay. All right, Larry David doesn't care about
Yeah.
attractive superheroes.
Yeah. That's not the point. The point is to not be seen. That's the point.
Hmm.
Why do you gotta mask to begin with if you just take
Yeah,
it off?
there's a little bit of a suspension of disbelief here that
Yeah.
I think you may be missing
Uh,
going into all this.
it goes too far
But
sometimes.
yeah,
But it's
I'm with you for the mo like I think it's a good job of showing murder, but I think like what you were saying is true in that the book is able to bring this out a little bit more. I think a lot of that is because if you continually, I, I don't know, in the TV show, if it was just like continually Murderbot,
yeah.
inner thoughts on
You'd be in an
everything,
audiobook. Yeah.
yeah, it might get a little old, a
Yeah.
little bit too fast. It'd kind of be a kind of a weird viewing
Mm.
experience. Whereas reading, it's fine because it's a first person narrative the entire
Yeah.
time, and so like you expect that, and so no problem, just do it. So yeah, very different thing, but I think that they are doing a pretty good job. Other than, you know, Murderbot is just maybe more attractive than we
Yeah.
had initially thought.
I think the build is good for it though. Like you expect it to be like pretty athletic looking and large enough to be able to do its job, you know?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think they nailed that part. Yeah, and I think in terms of like plot adaptation, I think they're doing a pretty good job with like they're still like continuing that little bit of mystery while really focusing on uh the tension of Murderbot being caught as rogue. Um I do think
I don't
again in
know if
the
I don't know if I fully buy into that. Like, as a viewer, I don't really see the threat of, okay, Murderbot is discovered to have hacked its governor module. I think you just have to believe what it's telling you, but it just hasn't like shown us any example of why this is actually a dangerous position to be in. So, I mean, I
yeah,
guess it's believable. Like, okay, they could report it, and then, the company would come in and take him over, or take it over and bring Murderbot back and scrap it or something. Like, it makes sense, but at the same time, you just kind of have to take his word for it. And I don't know if I like totally buy that it's really a big danger.
yeah, I was actually about to walk back the that part of the adaptation. Just that. it felt a lot more like there was more, you're more nervous of him being Murderbot being discovered as being a rogue unit in the book than I think in the show. And maybe it's just like everything is just kind of a joke. Not everything, but
Most
like
things.
they were scared when he grabbed Garathan, but then when they were like flinching afterwards, it was a very like comedic flinching, you know. And
Right.
not only not only did should maybe they be more scared, but also I feel like Murderbot in the show should be more uneasy right now. Like nervous about what this means, the implication of um being rogue. I mean, they've like laid some groundwork for it, like like him saying like, "Oh, Dr. Mintz is saying this because she has to, and I'm just gonna play my part as well," knowing that like we're both just saying what we have to for the situation to continue. But it felt much like a much bigger deal in the book
Hmm.
was revealed, and to have much like that's like part of the tension of the series going forward as well, is like, is he going to be caught as, or are they going to be caught as a rogue unit? And so yeah, I think they need to ratchet that
Right.
up.
Right. I think the difference is the Preservation Society is just so goofy and
Yeah,
nice and like they're not going to do
yeah,
anything to to mess with Murderbot. Like if it wants to be a rogue unit, then fine. It doesn't really seem
yeah,
like there's any menace to them like threatening we're going to report you. But like that I mean they said right away like oh our issue was that it didn't have free will.
yeah,
So like what's the problem here? So that kind of takes away any of the tension from potentially
yeah,
being turned in.
yeah. Trying to think. In the books, I felt like they were described as like people in our t society today are described, like more of those values. And then later on, there are like some things unique to them that are unique from like mainstream society today. But and like part of that stark contrast was the corporation rim is so corporate that things that are like mainstream to us today seem like are considered like to be too hippie-ish to that society. And the show decided to like push those extremes on either side more. But mostly we just see that with the Preservation Society. And so yeah, I think it does kind of lose some of that tension there. Um, Again, some good funny moments come out of it though. So yeah.
I think the main thing I want to see more of is opportunities for Murderbot to interact with other AIs. There's a lot of humor in the books
Yeah.
as it's talking to hub system or different systems
Yeah.
of different ships or
Yeah.
whatever. Like that's usually a funny type of encounter as the two AIs quote unquote talk to each other. And that
Yeah.
has not happened yet, really.
Was that a big focus in book one? I don't remember. It's
I mean,
definitely something that
not as much as other, yeah, in like there are whole characters that are built out of this in later books.
Mhm.
But I feel like at least in book one, it probably happened a few times. Maybe I don't remember. I could be totally off. But I
Yeah.
always thought those were funny moments, so I hope they include that.
Yeah. Um yeah, it's really hard to know how to critique it at this point because we're just halfway through, and
Yeah.
it's interesting to see how they're going to continue. I don't see that the hub system character really being a thing in this season though.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
it seems like the chance for that has already happened. Um but I don't know, it is interesting. I like the 30-minute episodes kind of throw me off. And I think they have nailed the sweet spot of like budget and production value. Like you can tell this does not have the same budget as something like Severance, even though like it probably has more special effects than Severance. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like low quality. It just feels like
Mhm.
okay, like they're not focusing the budget here. Like the fight scenes are infinitely better in the book, but it's because the book, it's like you can just imagine it so much better. But again, they're not a focus in the books either, really. So them not being amazing in this is fine. You know, they still
Yeah.
serve the purpose of raising the stakes a little bit. So
In our Wheel of Time episode, Josh's opinion was that Wheel of Time should have tried to go for something that was a little more cost effective while maintaining the quality. There was a lot of discussion about if this was possible or
yeah,
not, but I would be
yeah,
interested if he could, if we can get him on for a Murderbot finale episode and see if something like what he was
yeah.
imagining is achieved here, because it feels like some cost-effective decisions have been made in the production of this show.
Yeah, maybe we can get him on because like something I remember you saying is just the story of the Wheel of Time requires more and better like effects. Like thinking of the Trollocs themselves, like we couldn't the story would have or the show would have been worse with fewer Trollocs and less developed, like worse generated Trollocs.
Yeah.
Like it was already not at my level of like what I'd hoped the show would be anyway. So anything less than that, I don't think would get that return of like would find that optimal cost efficiency point. But so it is just kind of apples to oranges a little bit comparing like what the needs are from Murderbot to Wheel of Time. But because like you said, most of Murderbot stuff is just the set itself. And and it's like you don't need to be doing lots of different sets.
All the
And the
characters are pretty
cast,
much just like one costume, maybe
yeah.
two.
And the cast
Yes.
is small and mo
Hmm.
like and the right I will say I think they did a better job translating the writing to the show. Like I think the writing of the show is pretty good. Um
Although, wait, we did not
but
discuss the cast and crew of Sanctuary Moon. And
oh yeah,
there's another
I
set there that pops up, some
as
guest stars.
and I really like how they've done that. Like I think that's a really fun element and you could tell they put a lot of effort into that. Maybe that's where most of the budget went. I don't know. But I'm
No,
loving
not
it.
most. I'm sure that just seemed like a side thing that they
It's
had a lot of fun
it's
with.
pretty flash. It's pretty flashy though, and they got some like bigger name actors to be part of that. So
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
they're just
recognize
passionate
those
about it.
actors. I recognize all those actors over any of the
Yeah,
non-Alexander Skarsgård actors.
Garathan I recognize from Suicide Squad and from he was in a
Oh,
Marvel movie too. What
is
Marvel
he
movie?
in? Is he in what we do in the shadows?
I haven't seen the show. Um,
Like he would
but
fit into that show. But yeah, that's right.
yeah.
I do recognize him from something.
Yeah. But yeah, I love how they do the sequences from Sanctuary Moon and just how like contrasted it is with the very like desolate corporate environment they're in with this adventure thing. And um I like how they're incorporating that into the show a little more. Because in the books it's like always a part of it, but it's mostly just I'm watching Sanctuary Moon and this is happening, and that's like it. Um
Mm.
the deep cut lore test was fun.
Oh yeah, that was funny. That I laughed at that. That
Yeah,
was probably the biggest laugh out loud. I thought that was pretty funny.
yeah, yeah,
And the
yeah,
sequence where him and Mensa were escaping and he was like hallucinating and thinking that he was
yeah,
in
yeah,
the show like that, or
yeah,
I guess it was, we messed up the pronouns so
yeah,
many times, but
yeah,
apologies, did our best.
yeah,
But yeah, a lot of additional humorous elements that they did a good job of taking advantage of.
yeah, yeah. Like that was a genius. Like whoever in the writer's room was like, this is the way we need to do the sequence. Like that was genius.
Yeah.
And it made it like there was still some level of intensity. And again, they're trading a lot of like intensity for just fun. And I think that was a really good trade-off there. Because you still had enough of the intensity to make it last, but that is maybe a better way to spend your budget rather than trying to make a really cool fight scene for the show. Like the show doesn't necessitate that as much as it does this funny character building moment. But
Hmm. All right, that's our review of first 5 episodes.
Yeah.
We'll do another one when the season's over. And if you have thoughts on the show, let us know what details we missed, etc. Drop us a comment, or you can hop on our Discord. We're gonna do like a book club chat about this because there's a lot of Murderbot fans in the Fantology Discord. So if you want to join and talk about that or whatever, invites are on the episode description below.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. All right, Sec Units. See you later.
See you.